to be talking about the last part of prayer. We've been over that for the last couple of weeks now. And if everybody remembers what the 5 parts of prayer are, get that from the Lord's Prayer. We acknowledge that God is the authority. We acknowledge that we submit to Him. We acknowledge that He provides for our needs. We acknowledge that we are sinners and need forgiveness. And now the final one is we need to acknowledge we need guidance and direction from Him alone. That's the last part. And I want to spend a little bit of time on this guidance part. Wisdom, guidance, obedience, direction from God. If we acknowledge God as our authority, and then we submit to Him, we acknowledge that we have to submit to the one who's in charge. And if we know that He provides everything that we need, and the greatest need is forgiveness, and yet we don't want to listen to Him and obey Him, then none of that stuff matters, does it? Oh yeah, God's the one. Yeah, I'll submit to Him. Yes, He gives me what I need, and He's forgiving me, but I don't need to be guided by Him. I don't need to have the obedience and follow His directions. Then what's the point to anything? If you're going to make a prayer to God and follow that model prayer that Jesus gives us, Our Father, it ends with what? And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Give us guidance so that we don't do boo-boos. He gives us all this. He's the authority. We submit. He gives us what we need. But then we decide to go, thanks, God, and walk away. That's what we're going to be looking at right now. Acknowledging we need guidance from God alone. Needing direction. That's why I titled this sermon, Needing Direction. Because we need directions. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Lead us. Guide us from temptation. Guide us away from that temptation and the evil that it brings. Deliver us from the wrong path. And usually that's the path that we desire to take, isn't it? That's why we pray to God to lead us not into temptation. And yes, I talked about it before, lead us not into temptation. God does not lead us into temptation. What that means is lead us away from that. Deliver us from the evil. Lead us not because we know you're not going to lead us. We as sinners do not know our way through this dark world of sin. It's that simple. This world of sin is our own making, though, isn't it? We created it, we made it, we decided to eat a delicious looking apple, right? Somebody decided to talk to a snake, and then some guy decided to listen to a naked chick. That's what got us into this problem. We made this world the way it is, and we don't know our way through. But God has all understanding, and through His wisdom, His design, His plan, His will, He knows this creation. He knows this creation, knows its paths, its ways, its trails, and He knows which ones we should walk upon. We are lost in the deep and dark of sin, and we don't know how to get out. The more we try to get out on our own, the worse we make it, the more lost we become. As I said, we created sin, or let sin into this world. We've lost control of our creation, haven't we? We've built something and now we've lost it. We've created a maze we can't get out. This is God's world. This is His creation. He knows all about it. He knows the way for us to walk. He knows the path out of the dark. You know, in survival, this is a common occurrence, getting lost. More people are lost and often never found due to their own hubris. Number one cause, they think they know the way, they rely on their own understanding, their own wisdom, their own greatness in a situation, their own abilities. And this is their downfall. Instead of following proper guidance, they strike out on their own, sure in their own capabilities, and this accounts for more lost hikers, campers, hunters, outdoor adventurers. We all want to take that path less traveled, don't we? We all want to go off trail. And we go, I can do it. I've done it. Yeah, I've been trained by the military to be in survival, so I'm going to go off over here. Oh, I know land navigation. I know how to read a map. I know how to shoot an azimuth. I'll be fine. And then I'll get to the bottom of the hill going, okay, where am I? Every tree looks the same. More people are lost that way. If we do not know the area we are in, and if we're in unfamiliar territory, what do? What do you do when you're lost? Ask for directions, right? You ask for guidance. And here's the thing, though. If we ask for guidance, and someone who has intimate knowledge of the area that you're in tells you, go here, do this, why would we ever want to argue with them? Shouldn't we just shut up and do what they say? You go somewhere, hi, I'm looking for X. Well, if you go down, you know the old barn that burnt down 3 years ago, and there's that big old tree, the Smith place, yeah, you take a left, hey, give me their directions, follow their directions. But how many times do we go, now that doesn't seem right? How many times do we do that? How many times do we question the directions given to us by somebody who knows? And I've done that. I've looked on a map before, I've gone out on a trail, I've walked and go, and the map says it's going this way. I talked to the guide up there, he said go this way. But you know what? That doesn't seem right. Why would I do that? It's a man thing, really? We're going to start this. Okay. It's a human thing. Human thing. It is. We argue so much, don't we? Why do we say, no, they have to be wrong if we have never been there? And we're the ones asking for directions. Why do we question the person giving us directions? Why not just accept it from the experienced guide, do what they say, follow their directions, and get home safely? Why can't we do that? This is mankind and God. This is not our world that we live in. This is God's world. We acknowledge Him as the authority. Don't we submit to His will? As the authority, the sovereign creator, don't you think He knows His creation better than anybody? He is the ultimate expert. And when we don't know what we're doing, we cry out to Him. What do I do now? We get in those moments in our lives, those big, huge old emergencies, and we ask for direction. Where do I go, Lord? What do I do now? We cry out to Him, and He goes, well, I created this. I know all about it. Let me tell you what you do. But no, through our own pride and arrogance and the strength of our own capabilities, we argue with His guidance and ignore His directions in favor of our own understanding. If God is sovereign, if He's the ultimate authority over all creation, and He is, and His own creation submits to Him, He provides for its needs, then as Creator, He knows the way through His creation without doubt, without uncertainty, without question. And how dare we argue with the greatest expert in all of creation? We would be wise to listen to the one who created all things in order to find our way through all things. So we're going to be looking at Proverbs 3 today, guidance from God. The rewards of wisdom, Proverbs 3 is one of those wisdom things, but what is wisdom? Guidance, how God guides us. Now I'm not going to read all of this for you. We're going to break it down into sections. And like I said, I want to spend a little time on this, so if I don't have enough time today, I'll cut it off and we'll continue it next week, because I think looking at guidance is important, that final pillar part, whatever you want to call it, a prayer, because we can have everything above. We can acknowledge God, we can submit to Him, we understand He gives us what we need, He gives us forgiveness, but if we're not willing to listen to Him, if we can't acknowledge that we need His guidance and His guidance alone, then what's the point of any prayer that we have? God, gimme, gimme, gimme. Thank you. Now I'm going to go on my way. That's exactly what it's all about then. So guidance from God and God alone, not our own understanding, not our own experience, which is subjective. We need the guidance of an expert, a master of his craft. We need guidance from the one who has all authority over all creation. Any other guidance and we become lost. We will go off track. We have to acknowledge that we are incredibly ill-equipped to guide ourselves. We must learn from someone who has more knowledge than we do. Learning from ourselves or from other ill-equipped people gives us very little knowledge, and all it ends up is maybe wise tales, folklore, or out-and-out lies. So where do we go for the truth? Don't come to me. Yeah, I'm up here, I'm behind the podium, I'm preaching to you. Do my little song and dance up here, and you're going, oh, okay, don't listen to me. What knowledge and understanding do I have? Well, I get it from here. So where should everybody be going? Right here. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for trusting that I think I know what I'm doing up here. But go to his word first. So let's look at just verses 1 through 4 right now. My son, do not forget my teachings, but let your heart keep my commandments. For length of days and years of your life, and peace will they will add to you. Do not let kindness and truth leave you. Bind them around your neck, write them on the tablet of your heart. So you will find good favor and good repute in the sight of God and man. Now keep my commands. Verse 1 says, but let your heart keep my commandments. Whose commandments is this talking about? Well, Solomon wrote Proverbs. Wasn't he the wisest man? We all know about Solomon, right? God said, Solomon, I'll give you riches and fame and power and wisdom. What will you choose? I'll give you one of those. And Solomon said, I'll take wisdom. And God said, that is the wise choice. Because you chose that, I will give you everything else. So Solomon passed on his wisdom in the form of Proverbs. He says, my son, don't forget my teaching, but let your heart keep my commandments. It's not Solomon's commandments. These aren't the words of Solomon. There's 30 Proverbs. Right, 30 Proverbs. You guys are going to make me double check my own math here. There are 30 Proverbs. You can do one every day for a month. That's the cool thing about Proverbs. 31. There's 31. So you can do one every day. But there's 31 Proverbs. These aren't the words of Solomon. These are the words of God. Anything in this book may have been written down by the hand of man, but they're the words of God himself. So he's saying, these aren't my commandments, these are commandments of God, and I'm passing them on to you, my son. What every father should do, what every mother should do, what every parent should do is give their kids the words of God so that they can continue to follow his path. If you have expertise in an area, why aren't you passing that expertise off to somebody else so that they know how to use it? Every generation should follow God, not just my generation. So keep these. He says, peace they will add to you. Verse 2, for the length of days and years of life, and peace they will add to you. By keeping the commands of God, by keeping those words of wisdom, by being guided by God, peace will be added to us. And it's not the kind of, hippy-dippy peace, right? Peace, man. Make love, not war. Give peace a chance. Not that kind of peace. We're talking about contentment. True peace cannot be found on earth. Why? Because it's full of sinful human beings. But we can have a peace that's different. One will have an eternal peace, won't we? By obeying God and following his guidance and his commands, where does that lead us? To eternity, to glory of Jesus Christ, right? Long life and peace, eternal life, and nothing to worry about when we go to heaven. Where it's only 76 degrees, clear skies, and beautiful music. Peace all the time. But we can also have peace in our lives, can't we? We can have contentment and peace and joy. Content to our lives. When we follow God, that long life that we have, that peace that's built up into us, that fills us up with something. Makes us who we are. Content of character. And when we have content in our lives, we are content. We are more ready to face a broken world in which we live and inhabit. Guidance, that obedience to God, that following of Christ builds who we are, not what we are. What we are sinners and broken people. We love to have titles and identities and all that kind of stuff thrown upon this outside appearance. Because we're arrogant. Because we're trying to say, look at me, I am an expert, and I know how to guide myself through this world. And God is saying, no, you don't. Won't you have that humility and that humbleness inside of you? Won't you hold my commands and let me guide you? Then you will be filled up with something more. You will have content, and when you have content, you will be content. Who we are is a creation of God made in His own image that builds up something within ourselves that matters. And that's that peace that we have. We have that humility to understand we know nothing about the world and sin we live in. And we need direction, not from ourselves or others, but from the one who created everything that works together. Bind them around your neck. Do not let kindness and truth lead you. The kindness, truth, the wisdom of God's guidance. Never let that leave us. Bind them around our neck. I like that. Bind them. Teresa, you have horses. What does a lead do? Leads them around, right? Now, a horse doesn't put that around their neck, does it? We have to put that lead around the horse, and we have to put the bit and everything, and then we can guide it. This is saying we have to actively bind something around our neck. We're not passive about guidance. We need to go seeking the Lord, having Him lead us, Him guide us. But then when He hands us the lead, we have to bind that around us and let Him lead us. We have to be active in this. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Carve that in there. Never let it be lost. We have to actively let God lead us. I know that seems kind of a contradiction, doesn't it? We're actively letting someone lead us. But we have to make that choice. Verse 5 through 12, guidance from God alone. Trust in the Lord, verse 5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. We are going to see words like this through this entire Proverbs. Do not lean on your own understanding. We are not wise. We lean on the understanding of the one who created all things. What do we know? Seriously, what do we know as human beings? What do we know? Even the most assured woodsman does not know everything about the country he lives in, and even he will tell you, I can still be surprised and be taken by surprise. Man changes his understanding about as often as we go out to get milk, don't we? What we knew 1,000 years ago is obsolete today, and it will be just as ancient 1,000 years from now. Every generation, every society changes how they do things. What is wise about them? Oh, we are smarter than our ancestors. This is all, our wisdom is subject to our experiences. I often think we're such a great society now. Why? Because we put a man on the moon? Because we have a wealth of information at our fingertips? I can call around the world in the blink of an eye, and yet I can't seem to get myself out of a broken marriage, horrible family life, addictions, jealousy, anger, rage. Our understanding and our wisdom and our intelligence has really gotten us far, hasn't it? What have we really accomplished as human beings in the last, 6,000, 7,000 years? Nothing, really. But we're going to see this more and more through here. It's going to be repeated. Do not lean on our own understanding. Don't lean on the understanding of not on ourselves, but of the person next to us. Yeah, it's good to get advice, okay? It's fantastic. Get that advice, great. But why are we going to a 2-year tradesman and asking for his advice? Mike, you know how it was in the military? What was the thing that irritated you the worst about a lieutenant? Their attitude. 6 months in the military, a butterbar comes up and says, you know, in my experience, and all you want to do is take his smug face and give him some wall-to-wall counseling, right? So why am I going to a 6-monther? Another one of us. I want to go to a person that's been at it for their entire life and get their advice. I want to get guidance from somebody who's been doing their trade forever. And who has that qualification? It's God. Our lifespan is about 80 years right now, if we're lucky, on average. God's lifespan has been eternal. So who am I going to go to? Hey, it's good to get advice from that 80-year-old. Absolutely. But I'd rather get advice from the trillion-year-old, the eternal-year-old. I don't know, what is it, infinity-old? I don't know what that number would be. In all your ways, verse 6, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. In all our ways, acknowledge the need for guidance in all things, not just some areas. We need guidance in every aspect of our life. We haven't got it figured out at all. When we say, nope, I got this part of my life figured out, doesn't something usually come along and trip you up? Nah, I've got this one. No, it's going to trip us up. We don't just ask for guidance in the really big things, you know, those emergencies, often of our own making. We need to ask him for everything. How's that saying go? I tried this, stumbled over it last night. Poor planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. That's God. We think we know all the tiny little things, don't we? I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. And then they compound, and they're like this golem of a monster of problems later down the road. And it's this big emergency now that we're yelling to God and saying, I need help. Guide me through it. Well, maybe if we would have had better planning, and we went to God and all these small parts too, they wouldn't start building up into something huge that we now can't handle. In all things, acknowledge God. In all things, look to him for guidance. It doesn't matter. You wake up in the morning and tie your shoes. While you're bent over, say your prayer to God. Who said that? Or somebody said it. Yeah, somebody just made a quote about it. But in all things, whether it's our finances, whether it's in a job that we're looking for, a house, whether it's our kids, everything that we do, we need to seek out God, acknowledge him in all ways, and he will make your paths straight. When we think, I can handle the small things, we can't. We need to be going. This book covers some of the most ludicrous things. Read Deuteronomy. It will give you laws about what happens if your bull knocks over a fence at a certain time with somebody watching and nobody watching. It breaks it down. It's about as idiot-proof as you can get. And that seems to be a very minor thing. But God is saying, acknowledge me in all ways, and I will make everything, all your paths straight. If you let me lead you through the smallest things, they will not compound into something bigger. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Verse 7, there we go. Just stated a little bit different. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. Again, God is saying, you are not wise. I am not wise. We as the human race are not wise. Where do we get wisdom? From here. We need to be guided by God. We think we can go out and conquer the world because we watch a Bear Grylls episode, right? Wow, we're smart enough to do this. I read a textbook. I took a 3-credit-hour class in community college. And I can go argue with a PhD at seminary. We're not that wise. But fear the Lord and turn away from evil. We're supposed to turn away from it. Do you know what the most evil thing that we can do? What's the most evil sin? Sure, everybody's got, what, genocide, murder, rape? Those are pretty bad sins, right? How about thinking we're smarter than God? I think that's the worst sin, because didn't that get an angel kicked out of heaven? Didn't that get 2 human beings kicked out of a garden in paradise where I could be living right now with no worries? Isn't that what we do every single day when we do not acknowledge God? When we think we're smarter and wiser and we have everything figured out, that is the greatest sin. We try to elevate ourselves to God. So turn away from that evil. That is just the height of evil. Thinking that we know better than God. Because if we know better than Him, then all those other sins that we think are so bad, they just fall right down. It's easier to commit those. Well, I can do this because justification. I can do this because of justification. Because I'm smarter and wiser than God. So we do not be wise in your own eyes, but instead fear the Lord and turn away from that evil of arrogance and pride. Verse 8 says, it will be healing, wisdom, guidance. Will be healing to your body and refreshment to your bones. Now, when we start to understand that we aren't smart, we aren't wise, we have very little understanding of how we are supposed to get from here to heaven, then God says, when you let me guide you, it is going to be healing to your body and refreshment to your bones. Both on this planet and eternally. Healing to your body. What is the greatest healing that our body can have? When the ravages of sin are taken away through forgiveness. We won't be eternally separated from God. We'll be refreshed in heaven, restored to our place of relationship with God. By following His guidance, we are healed. Now, sin, this can also happen on earth. By being led by God, we can be healed and refreshed here on this planet. Because isn't the ravages of sin kind of stressful on the human body? Okay, I'll tell you a story. Only time this happened in my life. Never drank and drive. One time I did. And I drove home. Got into my bed, but I couldn't fall asleep. As drunk as I was, I could not fall asleep because I was sitting there tossing and turning. What if my dad finds out? He said he would kill me if I ever drank and drive. You drink, you call me, I'll come pick you up. I don't care what time it is. But never drive home. I drove home. I'm all night long. Working out the hangover and the alcohol in my system. It was a horrible time. And finally, I think I ended up passing out because of anxiety. And I get woken up in the morning with my dad going, so did you drink and drive? No, sir, I didn't. Really, you didn't? No, sir. And can you tell me why your car is parked at such an unusual angle? On the yard? Across the street? The ravages of sin kept me up all night stressed because I know I've done wrong. How many times do we do something wrong? And we spend so much energy worried, freaking out because we've done something wrong. Because we've left our soul at such an awkward angle across the street on the lawn. And God's reminding us of it. It eats at us. It's that conscience, right? That conscience, that Jiminy Cricket on our shoulder going, you messed up. Yeah, it weighs on us, that stress. And God says that when you let me guide you, when you let me lead you, I take away all that stress from you. Because you ain't doing nothing wrong, right? I would mess up as a kid, and if I went to sleep and I had nothing to worry about, that was great. I would start to get into bed and go, I can go to sleep tonight. I didn't do anything wrong today. Okay, I'm good. I can get a good night's sleep. Yeah, that strain is removed. That stress, that mental, the physical, and it eats our bodies too. And that's why God says, when you let me lead you, it will be healing to your body. You don't have the stress because you're not sinning. I've taken that sin away from you. Now, this brings up an interesting point. You have people out there that don't believe in God, right? And they say, well, I don't believe what I do is a sin, so it doesn't give me any stress. Well, yeah, it does. Because don't you see them standing in protests or in marches or on the internet, on blogs, and you're yelling and screaming about how they're right, and they get angry all the time, that why aren't you accepting who I am and what I do? My sin, you should be accepting, whatever the sin is. They're out there fighting hard to say, I'm doing what's right. I'm not breaking any commandment because there is no God. And they expend all that energy yelling and screaming and hooping and hollering. And they're stressing themselves out and their body gets worn down. Why? Because they're not letting God lead them. Sin is taking a toll on their body. Yet, you look at people who are guided by God, by people that let God lead them, that God says, follow me, and they follow, they don't have that stress. They don't have to be out there hooping and hollering. Yeah, we live in a sinful world. We understand that people aren't going to like us as Christians. They're going to say things about it. But you know what? We accept that. Jesus said, they're going to hate you because of me. But understand that. You're going to have to deal with it. And what does God do? He takes that stress away from us and he goes, follow me. You don't have to worry. You have nothing to prove because I have given you the truth. So just live it. And we don't have to expend energy going out there and standing with signs or getting on the internet and blasting people. We don't have to have that aneurysm of stress. We just accept it and go on. That's the difference between people who are guided by God and those who are not. It's called contentment. If you have content in your lives, you will be content. If we are guided by God, even in a stressful and sinful world, we have peace because we are being led through it by somebody else. We'll get through verse 12 here. I just want to touch on a couple more things, and then that's probably where I'll stop today. Honor the Lord from your wealth and from the first of your produce, verse 9. Honor the Lord from your wealth, first of your produce. All that you produce, we're supposed to honor God. We're supposed to let Him lead us. We're supposed to obey Him. From our wealth, what is that, money? What we put in this little plate? No. How about our lives? What's the most important thing? What's the most priceless thing in our lives? It's our life. My life is the most important thing to me. Without it, I can't do anything. That's my wealth. That is the one thing each and every single one of us has that is different from every single one of us. It's our life. It's worth more to us than anything. So we honor God with that first. Everything that we do, we honor Him with. God gave His all for us. Why don't we give our all back to Him? Didn't He create a world? We weren't His first creation. We were kind of the sixth one. But everything before then was made for our benefit, wasn't it? And then after He broke His world, a few thousand years later, He has to send a man to die Himself. He comes down in the form of man and dies for us. He gives His life to us. So, the most priceless thing that we can give, we give to God, and that's our life. If He gave to us, we give to Him. Honor the Lord from your wealth and from the first of your produce. The first things that you do ever go to God. We don't just do our thing and then give the leftovers to God. I heard one pastor who was talking about tithing. He made the joke, though. He says, yeah, you give your tithing off the gross, not the net. You include taxes, everything like that. You don't do deductions. You give everything to God without exemption, is what he was making it. And that's with our whether it's money, whether it's our time, whether it's our talents, it's our effort. How about our freedom? You know, our self-freedom, our desires, what I want to do. There's so much I want to do, and being a pastor just gets in the way. What if I want to just up and go backpack around Europe? No, I got to think about who's going to stand here on Sundays. I got to worry about writing a sermon. What do you guys got to worry about? How about reading the Bible every day? See, there's things that we want to be doing. People would rather be playing video games, out hiking, gardening, hunting, fishing. We'd rather have our own time and our own desires. How would we give that up? And I love giving up my time for God. I will do it in a heartbeat. When I prepare a sermon, I'm in this book. And I learn so much. And you would think, well, didn't you go to school? Shouldn't you know this stuff? There's always stuff that you're going to learn. Stuff that I have read a million times. And then, now I'm starting to get it. But when we give of ourselves to God, we're going to be led more and more to more wonderful things in His Word and life, everything. Do not reject, I want to end with this in verse 11 and 12. My son, do not reject the discipline of the Lord or loathe His reproof. For whom the Lord loves, He reproves, even as a father corrects his son in whom He delights. I want us to keep this in mind. And this will end today. Do not reject the discipline of the Lord. Okay, I always tell my kids, did you just get your rear handed to you by daddy when they mess up? Yeah, okay. What'd you learn from it? It's always my follow-up. What did you learn? Sometimes I just stare at me and go, but they've learned something. I'm correcting them. Now, I was going to use the example, no parent lets their kids just do something. But I've heard stories, and I'm not going to point out names. And my own example, my daughter would run around with a fork and try to put stuff in the light socket when she was little. And for a while, we kept chasing her away and telling her no. One day, me and Judy are sitting there, and we're watching her, and she starts toddling over to the light socket. She's like, no, wait, this is going to be good. Just stop. Sure enough, zip. Owie. She never did it again. But that's kind of God too, right? We correct our kids when they mess up. God corrects us. He disciplines us. Kind of hits us with the 2x4, don't he? We decide to go off path, and He goes, hey, stupid, back on the right path. I told you where to go. That's a good thing, isn't it? How horrible would God be if we just started to go off path, and He goes, no, wait, this is going to be good. Like, I don't know, a horrible parent with a kid. God doesn't do that. God sometimes lovingly pushes us when we're ignorant. Sometimes He smacks us. Sometimes He has to pick us up and throw us back on them because we want to argue so many times. But yes, it is true. Sometimes we go off path and we do not listen. We see the signs all the time and we decide, oh, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to walk this way instead of where I'm supposed to go. And God goes, all right, I've told you enough times. You're going to have to learn on your own. He lets hearts become hardened. Pharaoh in Egypt. He lets the hearts get hard because you do not want to listen. You will go off path so many times and never listen to God that He will finally go, I'm done. You know, we all see those horror movies, right? Gee, guys, there's a dark alley, man, with the creepy staccato music. Let's go walk down there and see what's there. Or, hey, that creepy woods where all the teenagers got killed last summer. Let's go check it out. Or how about do not enter? And what does everybody do? That sounds like a good idea. Let's go down these paths. Let's open up those doors. And that's what starts the horror movie, doesn't it? When they keep going, oh, that's not a good idea. The end credits roll. Yeah, 30-second horror movie. That's what we should be doing in our own lives. This world is full of the horrors of sin. So why don't we make this a very short horror movie? And when we see a sign posted by God with big letters, here's one that we're familiar with. Posted, no trespassing. Let's not go down that path. When God says, I want you to follow this route. Don't be wondering what's in the spooky woods. Don't be wondering where the weird music is coming from or what that glow is over there. Stay on this path. See, it's nice and it's lighted. It's got flowers. It's got butterflies. There's unicorns and pixies. Why not go down that road? And that's what we should be doing. When we see the stop signs, when we see the warning signs, when God says, follow this map that I give, follow this map that I've given you. And you will never be lost. This is a very simple, from Genesis to Revelation, point A to point B, from earth to heaven, from Eden to glory. Why are we going to go off the map? We have been given the most idiot-proof instructions there is. And I understand nothing is idiot-proof to a sufficient idiot. But he's given us everything we need to know. And when he corrects us, don't be upset about it. When he smacks us back onto that road, go, thank you, Lord, because I didn't see the cliff. He loves, for whom the love of the Lord loves, he reproves, he corrects. When you start not feeling that tap to get you back on the path, well, kind of wonder where your relationship with God is then. Because he will not. He will always correct you. He will not leave you. If you're being left alone, you got to worry about your relationship. That means your heart is getting harder. And God is going, all right, go see what's in the woods. Let me know how this ends. So always be happy that God is there to correct us. He's a God that loves us. He's a God that cares about us. And he's always going to correct us. He's always going to guide us. And we're going to continue this, finish up Proverbs 3 next week. Got a lot more I want to talk about, and because guidance is so important, and I don't want to take forever today. But yes, as we go out from the church today, let God lead you. Guidance is so important. If you're going to acknowledge him as the sovereign authority over all creation, if you are willing to submit to him in all things, if you are going to understand and acknowledge that he provides all that you need, and the most important provision is forgiveness. You understand that you're a sinner and you need that forgiveness. Then why aren't you going to listen to him? It just makes sense, doesn't it? You're going to allow him to guide you. You're going to bind yourself to the lead of God and let him take you where you need to go. You are going to continue on that path that he has laid out for you. And hey, yes, you are going to go off. You're going to go, oh, look, shiny object. And you're going to go, okay, I'm not back on the road, though. I'm there. And that's okay. Let him do that. Thank him for it. Thank him so much for that. So make sure that you're always following God and you're staying on path, and you thank him for that path and for keeping you there.